Hey everyone, Taylor here, and today I just wanted to intro this video a little bit because it's something very different from anything I've done on the channel before. So this is an interview with Yoann Gueritot, the creative director for CyberConnect2's upcoming game Fuga Melodies of Steel. And why I think this is really interesting is this is a guy that grew up in France and fell in love with Japanese games so much that he wanted to learn Japanese and move to Japan to make games like Final Fantasy VII. So this was just a super fascinating interview, very cool story that I wanted to share with you guys, and hopefully you learn about a very cool new game that he's working on called Fuga Melodies of Steel. So anyways, guys, I'll just leave it to the interview. I hope you enjoy. How did you end up working at CyberConnect? Because I'm sure it's, Japanese is a pretty tough language, and there's you don't see a lot of not Japanese people that work at Japanese studios.
Well, that was kind of my dream since I was a kid. Since I was like, 11, I played Final Fantasy VII, and I was like, okay, I want to make this, and in order to make this, I have to be in Japan. So I have to learn Japanese extra, and from that point, I kind of dedicated my whole life to this, So I decided to go to a Japanese language school. Then I went to Japan. Before that, of course, I was working in a few French game companies. And then I decided to, okay, let's go to Japan. Because I'm married to a Japanese woman, and she wanted to go back to Japan. So I was like, okay, perfect, let's go. And I always wanted to work at CC2 actually, because I really like their games, and I applied, and here I am.
Cool, that's awesome, man. Good for you.
Yeah, kind of a dream, yeah.
No, that's very cool. Is this your first game that you were a creative director on?
Yes, first one. I've worked on a few games in France as a level designer. Then I entered CC2. I started as a level and game designer on FF7 Remake and Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. And now my project is, it's Fuga, and I'm creative director on it.
Why did you guys want this to be your first self-published game? Like, what about this did you guys feel so strongly about that you kind of wanted to do it yourself?
Why Fuga? I think it's because we are 25 years old since CyberConnect2, and our first game on PS1 was Teleconcerto. It's in the same universe as Fuga. It was cute, it's with anthropomorphic animals. You were playing as cats, dogs, and with cute robots. And it's the same universe, it's the same world. And we thought that as our first self-published game, it would be cool that we could use the same universe. So it's kind of an homage to our very first game. I say, but I wasn't there, obviously. So the company's very first game was Teleconcerto, and we wanted our first self-published title to be similar to in the same universe.
So there's a lot going on in this game. I was watching the gameplay trailer that it looks like there's some sort of like tank strategy stuff. There's dungeon crawling. There's I don't know if I'd call it life sim stuff, but there's like bonding events. It looks like. Yeah. So what features are you guys most excited about? Because I don't know. I've played a lot of your guys' games, but I don't know if I've ever seen like a strategy game like that. Or would you even call it a strategy game?
It's our first, actually. It's our first strategy game. It's not really strategy, it's more like an RPG, and it's not our first. We already made the Dot Hack series, Mm-hmm. It's not a classic JRPG. I think you can see that in the trailer.
Yeah.
Very first time we try something like this. What I like the most is the battle system, because it's a game where you mostly fight, You have a lot of different phases in the game, but the main part is fighting. And we try to keep it simple, but kind of deep at the same time. It's really simple, but you have many ways to fight, many ways to win, a lot of characters, a lot of combinations you can make. And in the company, a lot of people play the game, and everyone has his own play style. And when we saw that, we were very happy. We were like, okay, what we tried to do worked, and I think that's my favorite part in the game. You have a press mechanic where when you use the right the right weapon type on a certain enemy, you can delay its turn.
Okay.
Yeah, you see, there's a timeline and a little like grandeur.
Yeah.
You can delay its turn, and so at first you think it's the main mechanic and you focus on that, but as you progress into the game, you realize that it will not be enough to win, and you start using a little more technical skills, like skills inflicting abnormal status, stuff like this. And I really like this aspect of the strategic aspect.
I'm not going to pretend like I know a lot about game development, but you guys are releasing Fuga on a lot of platforms. Has that been challenging, porting that to like everything, or has it been like, because the art style is not like super flashy like your other action games, that it's not as challenging? Or I don't know what is challenging or what is not challenging, but yeah.
That's actually something we planned from the beginning. It was challenging, but not that much, because we could make preparations from a very early start in the development, a very early point in the development. And what's the most difficult thing about this is maybe stuff like compliance. Every system has its own trophy achievement system. On people have this new activity thing. On Switch, you don't have trophies, so you need to adapt to every platform. But for the development itself, it wasn't that challenging, I think. I mean, I'm just a game designer, so I'm not a programmer or an artist. I don't know how the troubles they went with, but from what I heard, it wasn't that complicated, actually.
Yeah, the only reason I ask is because I know you guys, well, I don't know if you're porting it, but I know that Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is coming to Switch later this year, and it didn't launch with the other one, so I wasn't sure if like the Switch is particularly hard because it's not as powerful and stuff like that.
Kakarot is different because it's not open world, but you have these big environments, which wouldn't be a problem if the character wouldn't move so fast. So everything's super fast, and that's something we struggled, I think, with the Switch, but somehow they made it, so it's cool. But with Fuga, obviously it's not the same kind of games.
Yeah.
It's a little more. It's a small game, obviously. So we didn't have much trouble with making it run on Switch.
No, that's good. Because I love playing on Switch. I love playing stuff on handheld, and it's.
Yeah, me too.
And they just announced that new OLED version today, so I'm sure Japan's very excited about that. I know they're a big handheld country, so this is a kind of a funny one, but I'm not sure if you guys are aware in Japan, but in America, the DS game Solo Torobo is super, super expensive. Would you guys ever consider doing some kind of like remaster, or is that sort of out of your hands, or like?
I'm gonna try to be cautious with
Sure.
This week, I was asked the same question, and things almost got out of hand. So
yeah, I don't want to get you in trouble. So if you don't say something you're not supposed to say,
it's fine. I'm just gonna be cautious with what I say. So yeah, Solo Turbo is like super rare, right? In the West. When I was in France, I bought it, but I'm really happy I bought it that time because I couldn't right now. I know it's super expensive. It's impossible to play by legal ways. And I think, that's definitely something we've thought about, but it's not something we can do because we want to, because we're just the developer. And we cannot make that call. The only ones who can decide to make it is the original publisher, Bandai Namco. And to them, the Solar Turbo was not a success because it didn't sell well, mostly because I think it got released at a bad timing. It was the end of the DS, beginning of 3DS, so transition period. It wasn't a good timing, but I know a lot of people love it. I love it too. Even in the company, I know a few people that would be super excited to work on the remake, me included, of course. I always wanted to work on it. That's one of the reasons I entered CC2. I wanted to make a Solar Turbo remake, actually. But that's not something we can just decide on our own. And what I said in another interview is that if Fuga sells well, that might be the start of something. But when I said that, everyone was like, okay, so it sounds like there's an agreement. If Fuga sells well enough, they're gonna make a Solar Turbo remake. But I never say that. It's just that for now there are no plans for a Solar Turbo remake or Telephone Solar Turbo remake. There are no plans at all. But if Fuga sells well, it would be a start maybe. Because if it doesn't sell well, it would be out of question, you know. Nothing will ever start. So if this remake should ever happen someday, we need to show the publisher, to show the world, even to show CC2 that people are still interested in this universe, in this Little Tail Monks universe we made. And I think the best way to show it right now is to support Fuga. So, but I'm not saying that if Fuga sells well, we're gonna make that remake. There is no agreement of any kind, you know. So that's it. I want to do it, and I know a few people that want to do it also. I know a lot of fans who want this to happen, but there are no plans right now.
So is the idea to do more, continue to do the license work while you kind of grow the self-publishing side? Is that kind of the plan?
That's the plan, actually, yeah. Of course, we're gonna keep working on those big IPs like Demon Slayer, stuff like this. But that was the plan, yeah, to also have our own IPs, you know. But we are with a small scale, obviously, because we are the own publisher. So yeah, that's the plan, to have, and Fuga is the first, actually. Fuga is the first, then we're gonna have Cecil, we're gonna have Tokyo Brigade, and many others.
I don't know, I think this was leading up to E3, and there was a story going around that Matsuyama had said something like that you guys are working on a game that made him cry or something like that. Are you familiar with what that statement or whatever?
Yeah, you're talking about that tweet, right?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, it said something like, this game is perfect as it is. I could even cry, something like that, right? Yeah, actually, when I saw that tweet, I was kind of moved. I was like, oh man, he's talking about Fuga. He wasn't.
Well, that was my question: was he talking about Fuga? And if he wasn't, can you say what game it is, or is it a game that you haven't announced yet?
I was talking about Fuga, but that wasn't the case. And he told me that he was actually talking about brand new, unannounced project that I don't know anything about.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I don't know, but it sounds cool, right?
Sure.
And I'm very excited about it too, because if he says that means that's going to be good. But he told me after that that he could have said the same about Fuga.
Sure.
I hope it's true.
Yeah, sure.
but he did tell me that.
Yeah, because there's there's a lot, obviously, like yourself, there's a really big following of people in like in America and other like European countries that follow like the JRPG scene, the Japanese gaming scene. And so everybody was trying to guess, we're like, oh, maybe Azura's Wrath 2, or like they're bringing back Dot Hack. And I know you can't say what it is, but it was just kind of funny because for like a day or two, there was like all these videos and stories of people trying to figure out what it was.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah. But I couldn't even tell you because I don't know.
Sure.
I have no idea.
So like when stuff like that happens, do you guys at the studio kind of talk about it and like find it kind of funny, or like how does that go over internally when stuff like that happens?
It's fun. I like to see the people's reaction on this. It's really fun to see people's reaction. Even in the company, maybe only a few people know what he's actually talking about. Except the people who actually work on it, obviously.
Sure.
But I'm not even trying to guess. I know it's, I don't know. I guess it's something totally original. Maybe. I don't know. I have no idea, actually.
Okay, that's okay. That's cool, though.
I'm going to ask him that next time.
Sure. Yeah, it's been interesting to kind of watch as Japanese games, and I guess I would say Japanese or JRPGs in general too have gotten bigger, because like I think the really big moment, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts coming from the Japan side, but I think the big breakout moment was Persona 5 for us. Yes. I think at least this generation, because I played Persona 4 on like PS2, but then when Persona 5 came out, people were like blown away. Like people cosplayed as the menu. Like I've never seen anybody cosplay a menu before. That was pretty crazy. But like, and what I guess what I'm getting at is I think those games sell more copies in the West just because there's more people. So when you guys are making games, do you kind of keep that in mind? Like, even though we're a Japanese company, this is probably going to appeal to Japan more, it may ultimately in the long run sell more outside of Japan?
I know a lot of Japanese companies try to adapt to the Western market by, I don't know, making open worlds or making the characters look realistic or stuff like this. But that's not our strategy. We always try to stay focused on our strengths, We love Japanese games, we make Japanese games, and we make games for people who love Japanese games. We're not trying to change the content of the game to adapt it to the Western market, because no, we don't want to be like that. It doesn't work. It doesn't even work. No. So I think CyberConnect2 and a lot of Japanese companies finally understood that that's not how you should fight the West. You should, stay focused on what you do, what you've been doing for ages, and what people love. So for us, it's our anime art style, smooth gameplay. We try to keep focused on that. And for Fuga, it was the same. We tried to keep focused on that to stay Japanese to the end. At first, we were trying to make a more like simulation kind of game. Not really simulation, but it wasn't a JRPG at first. It felt more like a PC game, a lot of management elements. And we started on that, and I realized that I don't really like it. It's not really my thing, so I tried to push it so we make it more and more like classic JRPG, because we try to sell it on consoles, not only PC, and we know that most of the console players prefer that kind of, approach. So as development went on, we tried to make it more and more JRPG.
No, and I love that you said that, like, you know, you guys are not trying to necessarily adapt your games to the West, and you're just keeping true to what you know. Because I think as someone who grew up playing JRPGs and loving that, and when they started doing that, that's, I feel like when, like, the whole PS3 generation, I feel like Japanese developers kind of got lost. That's how we feel in the West, at least. But then this generation, they made a huge comeback. Like, I remember when Bravely Default came out and it sold well, and they were really surprised, and it's like, you guys just stopped making these games. It's not like we didn't want them. Yeah. You guys just stopped making them.
You just stopped. I mean, we didn't stop buying it. They just. And I thought Japanese games were about to die. I mean, 2 years ago. But then we got Breath of the Wild. We got Nier Automata. We got Persona 5. We got Octopath. You know, yeah, it's Japanese industry comeback right now, and I'm super happy for it.
Yeah, no, you're totally right, and I know you guys played a part in the Final Fantasy VII remake. I mean, that was my favorite game last year. That was so fun.
Me too.
Yeah, it was so great. I can't wait for part 2 whenever that comes out. But yeah, I mean, I know it's been about half an hour. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I'm sure you got a lot to do. But is there anything else that you want to mention about Fuga? Anything that you're particularly excited about, or you want people to know about?
We used a lot of systems, a lot of elements from other games, but we try to use them, to make something new, to make something unique. And yeah, I'd be happy if people could see Fuga as not something completely new, but something unique, a new kind of RPG. Yeah.
Fuga, Melodies of Steel. To be released on July 29th.